Hey, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell Haugen. I am the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight I'm super excited to celebrate with Alan Catlin the release of his Sheila-Na-Gig Editions title, Still Life with Apocalypse. And after Alan reads from his new book here, we'll also hear from some Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Edition authors tonight as well. So why am I so excited to have Alan Catlin here? So Alan and I go way back without really knowing each other, but kind of knowing each other, all the way back to the 1990s when I published Sheila-Na-Gig as a print journal. And I ran Sheila-Na-Gig for 10 years as a print journal, starting as an undergrad in Los Angeles, taking it through a couple master's programs. And Alan was a frequent contributor there. And I meant to go to my office on campus here and go get some of those books just to like show you guys the covers and maybe even read an old Alan Catlin poem. But it got so hot that I just got lazy and I didn't go do that. But Alan was a great contributor there. And when I started Sheila-Na-Gig Online, after about a 15-year hiatus from the print journal, put that to bed, went and had a career and grad school, all of that. And when I started back up in 2015 online, I had a couple of touchstone moments. And one of the touchstone moments was the first issue. I received so much great work, and it just made me realize, okay, this is good. This is going to be okay. And then by about winter of our second issue, I got a submission from Alan Catlin, right? And that was another touchstone moment to me where it's like, oh, the Sheila-Na-Gig fold, it's come full circle. And then other people who had been in Sheila-Na-Gig in the 90s also kind of found me online as well. So it's just really exciting to have had that, kind of literary connection for all these years. And now to have an opportunity to put out Alan's book, one of many that he's published. He's got plenty of places he could have gone. It's just really exciting for me, Alan. So thank you for the opportunity for that. And he'll remember how low rent Sheila-Na-Gig was right back in the day in the 90s. I'd go to my mom worked at MetLife Insurance. And we would go in there late at night and use their copiers and print off just reams of Sheila-Na-Gig and then hand collate everything and send them to the bindery. And it was just, it was a whole other world there. So, all right. So more formally about Alan Catlin here, I'm going to read a bio from a blurb from Robert Cooperman on the back here. Gives you a little insight into the book. Alan Catlin's Still Life with Apocalypse, what an apt title, is a whirlwind of a poetry collection chronicling and bearing witness to various horrors of the 20th and 21st centuries, starting with a section on the killing fields of Vietnam, circling back to the horrors of nuclear testing, onto the terror of September 11th, 2001, and various smaller atrocities enacted upon and by the United States in the past 80 years. Still Life with Apocalypse is an eloquent, frightening field guide to our terrifying times, encapsulated in this line from the poem Missing Piece, a flyer on Canal Street. The end was yesterday. Alas, too, but that's what makes this collection such a crucial read in these so fraught times. And as always, Catlin tells his grim tale with flair and verb, and must read to understand what's going on. And about our author, Alan Catlin has dozens of full-length books and chapbooks of prose and poetry. Most recently, his poetry books include a trilogy of retrospective work reflecting his 30-odd years in the bar business, the Carpe Diem series. A book of thematically linked stories narrated by a cynical barman was published by Anxiety Press as The Naked City. And a fictional memoir, Chaos Management, is from Alien Buddha Press. His most recent books are Unattended from Cyberwit, Landscape of the Exiles from Dos Madres, and Work Anxiety Poems from Roadhouse Press, and now Still Life with Apocalypse from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. So happy to have you here, Alan. Take it away.
Thank you. And thanks for all your hard work fixing my bad editorial skills and punctuation problems. So, well, anyway, there's no levity in an apocalypse. I'm sorry, but I like to usually have some levity, but not this time. So I'm going to start with a poem called Soldiers. I saw them before they went off to war in Nam, to Iraq the first time, to Iraq the second time, chips on their shoulders, so high you couldn't see where they ended and needed a wrecking ball on a crane to bring them down. After two or three beers, none of them could hold their whiskey like the real men they thought they were. They would go on about how much they were going to love wasting slant eyes or ragheads or whatever of the killing fields and the glory. None of them were ever going to get hit, wounded, or killed, nor was anyone they knew going to either, except, of course, in the abstract. The ones that came back all said the same thing. It wasn't like I thought it was going to be. It didn't feel like anything I ever thought I'd feel. And the smell, oh, the goddamn smell of it. They could hold their whiskey now. The whiskey was about all they could hold on to. This is a voice poem. It's called To Hell in a Handbasket. At the recruiting office, they asked him straight out if he was interested in becoming a rocket technician. He thought about it for a full 10 seconds, like the sound of it. A rocket technician, huh? Sure, signed me up. Learned lesson numero uno of enlisted life. Always inquire what these things mean before committing yourself. Found out his job was loading rockets onto gunships, and once they were secure, he was to assume his primary job function as a side hatch gunner, firing support on missions. Early on, he heard the co pilot take some incoming, turned to look, and caught a round in the area where his right eye used to be. If he hadn't turned just then, he would have caught it round square in the temple and have become a dead rocket technician side gunner. He went over to Nam mostly crazy, came back all the way crazy, and a whole lot more. Said my duty was like going to hell in a handbasket. And looking at him now, you figured once he reached his destination, there was no coming back. The club apocalypse now is what we would have called the basement bistro instead of the Roosevelt Drive Social Club had the movie been made in the 60s when the stench of death and napalm and tear gases were permeating the air, making a democratic convention into a gathering for a nation on the verge of civil war. And we'd be in the basement mixing up the medicine, a case of gin, a case of wink, a case of ginger ale, and a gallon of cherries. And before long, we'd be carrying out the bodies, the puking drunk or the unconscious eyes rolling back inside, white foam collecting at the side of mouths, and the desolation angels, dead end kids, the only ones left alive, passing tight hand rolled Mary Jane cigarettes, black lights illuminating sunken cheeks, hollow bones, and the dead eyes of those soon to be derelict passengers on a crystal ship to nowhere, just this side of a dark side of the moon. That we used to call those pink goddamn, and I wouldn't touch one of those things with a 10-foot barge pole. The guy who came up with that recipe served 6 years as a state senator in New York and 6 or 7 years as a congressman. I won't say what his other job was after that, but it was even higher uh, than that. So he wouldn't like it if I mentioned his name. So I won't. This is the first poem I wrote about atomic bomb stuff, but it's what I recalled when I was a kid. I used to get the National Geographics, and it used to have all these great pictures in it. And one of them was the Nevada tests back in, oh, I know, middle 50s, 57. And it showed the effect of atomic bomb explosions on houses and all kinds of things. It made a very vivid impression upon me as a child. And I wrote this poem early on, probably in the early 70s. It's called Firsthand Viewing the Ground Zero Nevada Desert Atomic Bomb Test, 1957. The desert is cold. We can feel the emanations rising from the alkaline base, see the cracked patches, lesions, squares of freeze-dried sand, all the blasted tiles we must never walk on. The manual says we can stand on guard, stare straight into the night until we hear otherwise. Always on duty, the desert is endless. The cold seeps under the concrete bunkers that are built to shelter the officers, scientific officials, selected politicians. None of them will ever die from overexposure. None of us are allowed out of the barracks at night unless they are testing bombs. Avert your eyes, the manual says. Crouch down, turn away from the heat. You will be blinded by the sudden flash of light. Fear not, the low sand mounds will protect you. Some of us stand up and look due west, disobeying orders. It is better, we feel, to die this way, facing the truth directly, than the other way, slowly through the bones. There was a soldier who did stand up, wrote a memoir about his experience, and he died of cancer. I wish I could remember his name. I have it in my notes somewhere, but it's incredible. It's not polished, but the sentiment says it all. So, as I said, I graduated from college in 1970, just before or just after the student strike. And Kent State happened. This is a poem that I wrote after reading a book about Kent State, so 50 years on. It's called After Reading Howard Means 67 Shots, the Shootings at Kent State. Recalling the all-night vigils, memorial sit-ins, student strike, church services, peace march through the upstate New York City, and all the hostility for all the long hairs. Recalling the peace fair no one came to, the petition for a moratorium for the Vietnam War no one signed, the peace committee work that accomplished nothing, recalling those glorious spring days, all that time to kill with no classes, no finals, just graduation and a draft notice that was sure to follow. Recalling playing softball, drinking beer, and hanging out with a cleanup hitter who couldn't make weekend games. National Guard duty, he said, when asked why he couldn't play. I hope I don't get called up. I hope there are no more student riots like at Kent State. You wouldn't shoot me, Doug. We're friends. He looked at me, then toward the pitcher towing the mound, and I knew he would if someone in command told him to. You're up, he said. the person who wrote that book, and after he saw it published, New Verse News sent me a very nice letter saying I have to write more poems like that. So here's one about 9/11, and there's a couple here that I was working in a bar the day of 9/11. It's, whatever, with surrounded by television sets because it was a sports bar, among other things, for like 10 hours of explosions. It's kind of mind-boggling. It was a zoo because nobody had work, and my cocktail waitress came in at 4 o'clock. It was a mess. I'm only going to read the first one. I get emotional when I read the second one. I might get emotional with this one too. I don't know. So this is for Erica. Remembering working in a bar on 9/11, 9.5 hours of the televised end of civilization as we know it. 9 large screens, always the same. Listening to random stories. My twin brother works there. My sister was stuck in traffic otherwise. My cousin is still on the 88th floor. And on television, my father, brother, first cousin, like a brother, is a fireman, policeman, Erica was saying. My mom lives downtown, scheduled, back room, political event, canceled. Still the phone rings. A young man asks, is that free beer and chicken wing democratic thing still on? And I say, someone took out the World Trade Center. Thousands of people died. The world might end tomorrow, and you're worried about free beer and chicken wings. Get a life. I often wonder what that guy is doing now with that life. Oh, I'll just have a couple more, and we'll seed the floor on the desert plain of dead cars. The post-apocalyptic nightmare is of a ravaged parking lot for late model, made in America cars, stripped of every usable part. Now a streamlined, air-conditioned, customized shelter for monitor lizards, poisonous snakes, rare breeds of genetically modified reptile beasts, mad iguanas, giant insects, birds of prey, anything alive that survives these burning oil fields set on fire in a last-ditch raise the earth as we go, effort to remind conquering heroes that follow the dead through here. Hell is a place on earth, and it looks exactly like this. There's a documentary by Werner Herzog about the burning of the Q80 oil fields. That's like science fiction, only it's not. I was so moved by that, I wrote a poem that was the end poem in a book called Lessons in Darkness. Um, I don't know if we've learned any lessons in darkness, but actually, I got to read a short one and then an up to date one, and then I'll be done. Dying for love. How is it that we live in a country where a mother has to express her love for her newborn child by shielding it with her body during a random hate-filled murder spree, forfeiting her life so that her child might live? And an up-to-date one, I added this just before we did the final edit. So it's called In the Age of Nixon. After the shootings of Kent State, A national student strike shut down the colleges, led to massive protests in the streets. Everyone could see that shooting unarmed college students was wrong. Under Trump, shooting a mother of three with stuffed toys in her glove compartment and a mutt in the back seat of her SUV was okay. They called her a domestic terrorist as if those stuffed toys were IEDs. And then a gang of 6 ICE agents beat down an ICU nurse and shot him dead in the street. And that's okay, too. His job was to save lives, not to take them. Blood on the mother's SUV airbag and on the sidewalk where the nurse died tells us all we need to know. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alan. It is a difficult book. It's a heavy book, but so necessary for our times. And I think just to remember history, I learned things, reading this collection. It's a poem Alan didn't read about how Hollywood bringing in irradiated sand from the desert to use in their sets, and the outcome, all the cancers, right? That could have been linked to some of that. I had to ask Alan, was that true? Did you make that up? It's like, that's true. So many things I didn't know.
Yeah, the movie was The Conqueror with John Wayne playing Genghis Khan, and the cast of characters who died from cancer because of the radioactive sand they took to Hollywood and blew around in their faces is just unbelievable.
One of many outrageous things, right, that occur
Wow.
in this collection. So, yeah, a necessary collection. Still Life with Apocalypse by our buddy Alan Catlin. So, thank you, Alan. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
We will move now into our invited mic portion of our evening. We have 4 readers tonight, and we're going to start zooming over to California to hear from Joe Cottonwood. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Haley. I just want to start by thanking Alan for Misfit Magazine. It still is a wonderful outlet. I'm so glad that I found it and became one of my outlets as well. Got to navigate to my poems here. The reason I'm dressed this way, I've been doing dirty work all day. I've been repairing a deck that has a rotten foundation and just quit in time to join this Zoom. And it put me in mind of this poem here, which is about dirty work. It's called Morning Chancellor's Handyman. 2 dogs promise with sincere snouts, soft whimpers, set us free to run this fenced yard just a few minutes. We'll be ever grateful. With human fingers, I unlatch the chains. Whoa! Like deer, they leap the gate. Gone, the Dalmatian and the big goofy mutt through mud and wet weeds, sticky with seeds. Call me sucker. Call me fool. I say to you, this world needs more softies. Here comes Dr. Markman, tying a bathrobe shut, asking why I let his dogs out in the early morning. So I jog around the private school campus among beautiful young minds, embedded in goofy but graceful young bodies, not unlike the dogs that are waiting in the backyard when I return. Warm tongues, happy tails. Now, who's the fool? Monday's first task is to stuff 10 cubic yards of spread out, rained on garbage into 5 cubic yards of dumpster. Shove. It squirts. Rinse. Repeat. Call me dirty. Call me smelly. I say to you, deal with your garbage or deal with me. Choose. Next, this old door is sticky, delaminating. Glue and clamps grease the hinges, shave the edge, while in the next room, for donors, an elegant breakfast of croissant, creme fraiche. Give me crunchy bread with black coffee, then let me run with dogs. I fix things. You need me. What's next? Sometimes you just have to let those things out. That's why we need Misfit. This wasn't in Misfit. It was in Anti-Heroin Chick, which meets a similar need for me. This one was not in Sheila-Na-Gig itself online, but it was in my book, which was published by Sheila-Na-Gig. And as a matter of fact, it was also came out in Anti-Heroin Chick. It's called My Song Americana. I come to you barefoot. I chew bluegrass, drink corn. My rain is muddy water. My hands are raw from picking cotton. My lungs are black with coal. My farm is dust. I follow rivers by raft, herd longhorns by horseback, ride boxcars over endless plain. I killed the native and the buffalo. I regret. I sing of what remains. I am outlaw. I seek justice. I celebrate love. I betray it. I despise the rich. I want riches. I raise children in rags. They outgrow my front porch, my tumble-down shack. I shame them with my twang, my holler of blues. My children trade tractors for Teslas. They bring the South north. They take the West east. My children return with fresh children who throw off shoes, who paddle kayaks, who dive into muddy water and come up clean.
Well, first of all, congratulations, Alan, and thanks for that just so intense and moving reading. Thank you, Joe. I like the trading tractors for Teslas for tractors or tractors for Teslas. That's very nice. Okay, so I'm Simona, and I'm going to be reading something a bit lighter. This one is in the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig. Maritime morning commute, San Francisco Bay. Off the Larkspur terminal, the boat glides backward into the bay the morning, enters a gray-ceilinged, slate-paved atrium, wavelets like whispers of water. Passengers' fingers fly on keyboards while the ferry hums, clouds hover on the spring-greened hills. Light edges in through a slit at the horizon, illuminates the chill outside and harder to reach within. On port, St. Quentin's beige walls loom, ooze pain no coat or bright taint can efface. What light filters through locked doors? Which side is death row? The ferry accelerates, follows briefly the San Rafael Bridge. Cold descends on deck, water sprinkles my face, a baptism. On starboard, villas glide past, gems set among shades of foliage, angled to escape the prison's view. Angel Island immigration station's cells, empty eye sockets. The park's serenity shadowed by past tears, fears, longing for freedom. Lines carved into the barracks walls, poetry the only exit, sorrow singing a lifeline. Echoes of pained voices carried by seagulls' cries. Through a skylight in the cloud cover, the sun asserts its presence, the slice of brightness, a promise to the prow pointing towards the port of San Francisco, not yet in view for me, lured inside by coffee in the main cabin. The Golden Gate Bridge on starboard, awaiting sunlight to set its reddish-orange sheen on fire. Alcatraz, Pelican's Isle turned prison turned park, emerges ghastly from the fog and the water, now ruffled in waves chasing each other like children. On starboard, skyscrapers rear up, while on port, the Bay Bridge leaps from Yerba Buena Island to the financial district. The ferry slows down, rumbles on approach, docks with a clanging, delivers us, steps unbound, lungs full of morning air, to our unwalled day. And my next poem, I chose it because it tells an adventure on bicycle, which is similar to one I had this morning. I got into a rainstorm. This is called A Bicycle Adventure from Getaria to Donostia, Basque Country. We left early, enveloped in near darkness, rode along the Bay of Biscay, water black metal on the edge of the land, the night. Visibility low, I focused on my husband's blinking red taillight. Dawn fought against low clouds, tinged the closest ones matte pink and pale yellow, turned the waves slate gray. Tension in the landscape waiting for release, air humid and electric, smell of salt water, exhaust from light traffic. On the quiet country road traversing the hills overlooking the sea, thunder ripped through the vineyards, dashing our hopes of reaching Donostia before the clouds broke down. The sky exhaled. Rain quickly turned heavy, soaked my clothes, flooded my shoes. I struggled to stay warm. Scent of wet soil, washed leaves. Before the downhill stretched to the city, we paused in the downpour and laughed. When cancer stormed into his body, I nearly lost him and myself in a darkness no dawn could lighten. Drenched, shivering, with frozen fingers but alive and not alone, I wished for the day to be just as it was. Back on the saddle, I pedaled off into the rain, his red tail light blinking ahead. Thank you.
So I guess it's my turn. I'm Ralph Stevens. I live in Ellsworth, Maine. Occasionally I appear online as Skip Stevens or Ralph Skip. And thank you, Haley, for managing this and for that wonderful publication. I've got two poems, and I have been rereading Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, in part because of the attack that we're now experiencing on libraries and books and that sort of thing. So this afternoon, I was reading the episode in which the protagonist, Guy Montag, is reading from Dover Beach to three women. And these women are part of a population that has been brainwashed into believing that poetry is all lies. There's no truth in poetry. And I was wondering whether or not I had written any poems that actually counteract that falsehood that poetry is false. So a couple of poems that I think do respond to that. See if I can find them. This one is called Not Until, and I'm going to have to do something about the font size, I think, so I can, let's see. Okay. Not until I've cleaned the house and all the poetry is gathered in one place. Not until the clean house sings like a poem. Not until the singing fills the rooms and finds the doors, and the song escapes into the next house and the next. Not until the houses welcome the song. Not until singing paints the houses and sweeps the streets, and not until the streets are all sweet with song, and the children hear it. Not until they take the song of clean houses, trees in the wind, of the wind writing poems. Not until those poems are gathered in one place, in rooms of children listening and singing. And this other poem here is called, I think, yes, Shaking Off Winter. And this poem was prompted by a friend's comment about a poem by Naomi Shihab Nye, and I hope you all know Naomi Shihab Nye. She's wonderful. So, Shaking Off Winter. Shoots of narcissus, hostas daylilies, are yellow-green this spring in her mud-brown backyard. She could protect them from the dog, from his oblivious tromping around. But flowers have to make it in a world with dogs. Last fall, she dug up the irises, and now we'll have to figure out where their new home will be. In the garden at the school, she thinks, where second graders write poetry. And there is poetry outside the schoolroom. They sit and stare, as school children will when there's a window nearby. Stare and watch the flowers shaking off winter. So thank you all for listening.
I'm Kris Whorton. Thanks, Haley. And Alan, I loved your work. Everyone else, thanks for the lovely readings tonight. I've got two pieces from my collection, Everyday Omens. It came out in April. This first one's called Navigation. Scientists say bats hear shapes. A spiral bounces, a square smacks. You once heard a writer say plot has a shape, and imagine a parallelogram story or a rhomboid or an oval. You thought, this must be why your stories aren't published. You don't hear shapes unless a splat is a dropped pumpkin. Plants eat light. A scientist told you this. Not a botanist, but a physicist who also said bees can dance a map leading you to their favorite flowers. These discoveries answer how light makes a plant grow, whether bees' movements have meaning, what guides their navigation. When you leave your house in Colorado, you grab sunlight, run a zigzag on mountain trails or in a circle around a boulder, and no scientist tells you how to find yourself in a family that feels like a triangle, why fathers make jokes about past boyfriends long after they're gone. No scientist tells you how to find the map to the shape where you belong, the contours of a life that fits like a second skin, the coordinates of a place called home. Thank you. And this other piece is called Only the Stars. Okay. Sorry. For some reason, it doesn't want to move. Only the Stars. To live in space, I would have to learn more about heavenly bodies, the sparkle of pinholes, the hazy cloud of our galaxy, a luminous veil. I know our sun is a star and Earth is not. The rest is a mystery. How rockets or satellites traverse the expanse, distances measured in light years, why we yearn for the moon or another planet we'll try to reshape into Earth instead of cherishing our home. Others can go when it's time, but I don't want to travel anywhere that can't be measured in miles or kilometers. I don't want to be suspended in a silent state as I leave radiant Earth behind. I refuse to learn a different planet's day or traverse its barren gullies, lifeless and unknown. What if, like when I scuba dive, I use up my air too quickly? I couldn't surface in space, make it to safety on some distant red shore. In space or on another world, I wouldn't hear the shin of corn snow falling, might never see snow again, or our moon, a crescent, full or a ghostly memory. I don't want to watch my planet rotate from soundless space as each continent passes before my eyes and then is gone, a last fleeting glimpse of all I've ever known. I'd rather stay rooted on this earth until I pass into mystery with only the stars to guide me. Thank you.
Beautiful, Kris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for wrapping us up, and thank you to all of our invited mic readers and also to Alan Catlin. Again, we are celebrating Still Life with Apocalypse, now available from Sheila-Na-Gig. I'm going to plug a couple other books that just kind of landed on my desk today that are ready for shipping. We have Night is Another Realm Altogether, West Virginia author Mary Ann Honecker. She'll be reading for us August 20th, so we have her coming up. And then this wonderful young man from New York named Jimmy Shields won our 2025 chapbook contest. This was not only his first chapbook, but also his first publication ever. So I was pretty excited to have discovered Jimmy, wonderful young man, and he'll be here August 27th. So hopefully you'll have that on your calendars. We are off next week. We have a rare Thursday night off. I don't have anyone scheduled for the 23rd, but I hope you'll come back on July 30th to hear Jennifer Schomburg-Kinke from Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, with her new release. And we can find Alan's book and all these other books in our online journal at SheilaNagigblog.com. Hope you'll come check us out.